Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Toon review for this morning's press conference reaction. And, of course, any Newcastle United news that we need to discuss on the show. Thank you very much for tuning in on this Friday morning. If you are new to the channel and you do like what you see, please do hit that subscribe button. It is free to do so. And also the notification bell, which will notify you if we upload any videos or we schedule in any live shows. You can become a member, of course, of the Toon Review if you hit that join button just underneath myself. And, of course, as usual, you can donate to the channel if you do so wish by hitting that $ underneath the live chat. And that will guarantee your comment also to be read out on the show. Now, obviously, Eddie Howe has been talking about the Fulham game and various other stuff that's going on with Newcastle United at the moment, trying to bring us up to date with certain injuries, etc., within the club. Of course, we know that is quite the problem at the minute with injuries, but some people are back in rehabilitation. Some are back on the pitch, but a long way from fitness by the looks of things. So we'll take a look at all that, what Eddie Howe has had to say. Now, first of all, there has been a couple of rumours jutting about this morning that if these new rules, of course, come in with regards to the money situation and the tax that Newcastle United would have to pay should they decide on changing the FFP rules and things like that, which it looks like they're going to. A lot of rumours kicking around that UEFA may kick the likes of Newcastle United, etc., out of the Champions League because of the spending that they'd be able to have. Now, for me, it's ludicrous, and I don't think UEFA would actually stand a chance of doing this. Simply because of the money that's involved in the other teams that have been in the Champions League for many moons now. Newcastle United would, of course, have a lot to spend, but it's a load of bollocks. The fact is that obviously the top players will go to these top clubs, and UEFA will not want the Champions League to suffer. They want the best players in the Champions League. So if the likes of Newcastle United, Manchester City, Liverpool, all these big English teams signed all these top players from around the world, there's no way that UEFA are going to back down and chuck teams out of the Champions League. They want the very best players in their tournament. They want everything to be at the pinnacle of European football, and that's what the Champions League is. And without a lot of the clubs who are going to be able to spend, then the Champions League, you know, if they're going to kick these clubs out, it would be absolutely unbelievable. And the legalities of it as well. You know, the legality of it is, you know, the different clubs and their obviously the legal teams, etc., will jump on this very, very quickly. And to be honest, it'll be squashed. So I wouldn't actually worry about it. I know there's a few videos kicking out there this morning with sheer panic and obviously, you know, tending to worry the fans over something that really shouldn't be worried about, as far as I'm concerned. Because if they did try that, they'd be up shit creek without a paddle, guys. It's as simple as that. But we will keep an eye on it, of course. But Joe makes a good point there. Obviously, you know, Barcelona, Real Madrid, PSG, all overspent by UEFA rules and are in huge debt, and they haven't been kicked out exactly. So you know, I think some videos that are put out there just to, you know, these sort of headlines saying, "Oh, Newcastle will be kicked out of the Champions League" and things like that. Don't pay any attention to it, guys, because it's a long drawn out process, and they would never ever do that, not in a million years. Spoons, good morning, mate. I hope you're well. But let's turn first of all to what the manager had to say ahead of the Fulham game, of course, at the weekend. Now, on Callum Wilson, this was interesting. He said Callum Wilson's looking very good. He's doing the hard yards. He's running hard. Of course, it's an upper limb injury, so he's able to keep very fit and really look after his legs and build his strength. I anticipate when he comes back, he'll be looking very good. Now, cynical side of me, when I read things like that, is I think, well, yeah, he'll be looking very good when he comes back, but how long will he be actually back for? And I don't think I'm the only sort of Newcastle fan that would think cynically like that. We've seen it many, many times before with Callum Wilson. When he comes back, he plays a few games and then he's off injured again for a few months. So I'm sorry if that sounds quite cynical, but I don't have any faith in Callum Wilson's fitness at all. I think his body is you know, telling him, or it's shutting down in some sort of way where he's picking up injuries here, there, and everywhere that you wouldn't necessarily pick up if you're at the pinnacle of your fitness. So for me, yeah, it would be great to have Callum Wilson back. Don't get me wrong, because we need that kind of striker for the running. But how long he's going to be, Eddie hasn't said this morning, so we don't know. But there's good news on Lewis Hall. Eddie said we hope he's fine and will be back training today. We anticipate he will be part of the group. So I think Lewis Hall will start tomorrow. There doesn't seem to be any question about that, because I think a lot of people were worried that we're going to have to completely change the back line tomorrow should Lewis Hall not be available. But it looks like he's going to be. Joe says it's true, Paul. He plays maybe 3 or 4 games and out for 9 to 15. John Steele says, good morning, mate. Hope you're well. I know Eddie won't, but do you think Longstaff should be dropped and start Willock or White? Please, the Hall and Anderson are fit, defo start. Who does Gordon come in for? Well, if you watched the preview last night, you would have seen that me and Billy are particularly interested in maybe playing Gordon on the right and Barnes on the left. It gives us some real attacking option. I think Jacob Murphy needs a rest. He's done a lot of running, a lot of hard graft lately for Newcastle United, Jacob Murphy, and I just think it gives us a really good option on both wings to play Gordon on the right and Barnes on the left, and of course they can swap over during the game as well. And hopefully, we know that both of them link up really well with Alexander Isak. So that for me is exciting. At least we'll have something tomorrow, going forward, whereas we wouldn't necessarily have. I think going forward, we look very exciting. We are going to be tested defensively again, but I think Dan Burn and Fabian Schär are, good enough to keep Fulham out. I don't particularly see Fulham as a massive threat, but they've got a point to prove after what happened with them against Nottingham Forest. And certainly those 3 players that were taken off after half an hour, there's all that to go through as well. So I think Fulham will be out to prove a point, but I do think that Dan Burn and Schär are good enough as a centre-back partnership to keep them out. David, good morning. I agree with you, and it's such a non-answer, as often the case about Callum. Chris says, good morning, Paul. How are you, mate? Hope you're well. I'm not too bad this morning, Chris. Thank you. Ian, excellent 3 days left in Tenerife, and I'm going to make the most of it. I bet you do. Friendly Channel says we need rotation, fresh ideas. I'd start Willock, even though he's off form. It's interesting because, we've talked about, Willock in the past, haven't we? And how sometimes, even when he's not quite on form, Eddie brings him back in and he has a wonder game. Now, obviously, we have great memories of Willock at Craven Cottage for, when we brought him in on loan. And he scored that fabulous goal where he ran the length of the field. That's the Joe Willock we all know and love. But we haven't seen that the last couple of games where he's been involved. He's been very quiet. He's been very laboured. But also we have to think that, this guy has had a real on and off season. He's been out for most of it. And, trying to get back up to speed in the Premier League, etc., is very, very difficult these days. We know that. But hopefully, if Joe Willock does start, then we'll see the best of him. I personally don't think Eddie will start him. I think he'll go with the same midfield that started against Everton with Anderson in there instead of Joe Willock. I can't see Eddie doing anything differently tomorrow. Anthony says pace. If they start running at people, no turning back. Yeah, pace is the thing that I think we definitely need. Mike Elliott says yes. Wilson needs to move on now for me and get a new striker in. He served us well, absolutely. And there's no sort of. I'm not taking a dig at Callum Wilson here. I'm just saying that I personally believe that his body is now starting to shut down and tell him that the physicality of the Premier League is a little bit too much for him now. Yes, he's in fantastic physical condition, but that's from the outside. The inside with the muscles, etc. It's very difficult, guys. We know it is when the muscles start to go, etc. It's not easy. It's not easy at all. NUFC, thank you for your super chat. I hope you're feeling supported after the other day, Paul. Big love. For everything you do. Keep smashing it. You should be a proud man and father. Thank you very much. I really do appreciate that. Charles says we need an upgrade on Wilson. By that, I mean someone who will actually play more than 10 games a season. And I'm sure they will, Charles. I'm sure they will. I'm sure they'll have that covered. Certainly is one of the big summer transfers. Whether it's a marquee signing striker or it's just a cover striker, we will. Time will tell, I guess. Travis says, I've always thought Willock is a super sub. Even then, he needs to be fit and confident to be useful. David says, happens to us all getting old, but Callum has had these problems even when he was in his prime. That's a good point, actually. We have to admit that Callum's had injury problems throughout his career. Some pretty serious injuries as well. His body's taken a battering over the years with the injuries that he's actually received. So not nice. Right, on the fitness of Tino Livramento and Miggy Almiron. He said Tino's was quite obvious, really, when you look back at the footage. It's quite strange, really, when you see the ball just hit his ankle before he goes to plant it on the floor, and it's twisted to quite an uncomfortable angle. You can see from that it looked quite painful. Thankfully, it's not as serious as it could have been, and we anticipate he could be back quite quickly. Miggy, I think, on crossing the ball, he got his studs caught in the turf and just tweaked his knee slightly. Again, not a serious injury, but enough to keep him out for a few days. So they were talking yesterday, or the media certainly were coming out with, that Miggy and Tino Livramento could be missing for up to 4 weeks. That doesn't tell me that they're going to be missing for 4 weeks. Certainly when Eddie says that, the anticipation of Livramento coming back quickly, and then you've got, obviously, Miggy Almiron a few days. Now, listen, we've seen in the past before, we've heard in the past before, Eddie saying players will be back in a few days, and then we don't see them for months. So, take it with a pinch of salt at the minute, but quite frankly, from what was said yesterday about being out for a month to a few days for what looks like each one, they could be back sooner rather than later, which is excellent. Certainly for Tino. His injury was nasty with the way he went over it. And, it amazes me because, you look at some of the injuries that we got over the last couple of weeks. It's been very much studs caught in the turf. Now, again, that's just the way our season has gone, hasn't it? It's things getting caught in the turf. It's real pain in the ass, but it's to the stage where, maybe this wouldn't happen next season or the season before that. It's just this season has been a little bit of a curse when it's come to injuries. But for me, I'm really pleased that the two of them may be back because we need them. Whatever we think about, Miggy's form, etc., we need all the players that we can possibly have available for this run-in. And in our challenge to try and finish in a European place, we've got to have our players ready to step in. And hopefully, Tino and Miggy will be back sooner rather than later. David, also, I hope you're okay after the last few days, Paul. You're a good man. Thank you so much, David. Why is no journal asking why he keeps playing Longstaff when he is rubbish? Well, listen, we can ask that question between ourselves till the cows come home, and nothing will ever get done, in my opinion. I don't know whether the anything is said before a press conference about what they can and can't ask. But nothing's ever asked about Longstaff, and I don't think anything will ever be asked about Longstaff. Personally, if I was sitting in that press conference, I would turn around to Eddie and say, look, the fans want to know this, Eddie, and you don't have to ask it in a nasty, forceful way. You could just turn around to Eddie and say, by the way, the fans would like an answer to this. Why is Longstaff playing? Why do you keep persisting with Longstaff when he's clearly out of form? You've got youngsters on the bench. You've got Joe White there, who's certainly capable of coming on. And because at the minute, surely one of the kids isn't going to be anywhere worse than Longstaff. So give them the opportunity. But that's something I would ask if I was in the press conference, but it never does. Spikes' injuries make it hard. We have to play them before fully fit. Such a string of bad luck, wasn't it? Me and the missus couldn't believe it. Morning to Roger. I'm late, Paul, so we're winding to the start. Julie J says, because the journals are pro-cartel, they won't ask the proper questions. It's better than it was, though. I think they are starting to ask a little bit more. Don't get me wrong. They're definitely starting to ask a bit more in the press conferences. But for me, still not enough. Just not enough. Jan wants these players gone. Dubravka, Lascelles, Trippier, Longstaff, Almiron, Murphy, and Wilson. Trippier, Jan? I'm not sure about Trippier. I think even Trippier as a squad player is something we need. His experience, the way he is in the dressing room. Come on, let's be honest. I think Trippier needs to stay. Howe said Tino is out about a month, didn't he? Well, not. This is. I'm reading the quotes from the Newcastle United website, And that's what he said. He said, thankfully, it's not as serious as it could have been, and we anticipate he could be back quickly. Now, saying that, is Eddie Howe's quickly 4 weeks? I don't know. I'm not so sure. Mike said, yes, I thought they were out a few weeks, but as you say, Paul, now Miggy out for a few days is a strange one. So it's the turf's fault now. Well, why not? Why not? We blamed everything else this season. Why not blame the turf? It's crazy. But just those last few injuries, you see the studs being caught in the turf, and you think, you know what? It's mental. Because, such way different reasons for getting injured this season. I'm sure we'll do a show at the end of the season, which will look back on all the injuries and how they happened. And you just couldn't write a book on it. You really couldn't. It's absolutely crazy. No journalists ask about 2 keepers on the bench. Well, that is a massive frustration for a lot of people, isn't it? I mean, giving up one of the places to put Gillespie on the bench is wrong, in my opinion. It's very wrong. That player should go to another academy player, not Gillespie. Gillespie's never going to get on the pitch, is he? I mean, even if Dubravka got injured, then Karius got injured. I mean, I'd rather play somebody else on the pitch than bloody Gillespie, who hasn't played since, Newport or something? So I think it's pretty crazy, but that's the way it is in football, guys. But nobody's strong enough to ask the questions. We'll never get answers to them. Scott says, hi, Paul, watching from Adelaide. Got my tickets for the Melbourne matches in May. Do you think the full squad will come over and play? Yes, I do. Or what he's got available, depending on injuries, of course. I know it's difficult to say, but you Aussies, I would expect for Newcastle United to take a strong side simply because of sponsorship deals, things like that. They're not going to take a lot of kids and leave the majority of the senior squad at home. I don't think that's the aim. I don't think that's what this is about. I think it's a little weird, to be honest, the timing of it. But I can also understand it to promote the worldwide brand of Newcastle United, to big up the support in Australia. I know, obviously, Ange is well thought of, the Spurs manager over there. So hopefully it's to build some bridges over there. And I would think they'll take a reasonably strong squad, yes. Mike says, yes, hopefully there are not 2 keepers on the bench on Saturday. I have a feeling there will be, though. Right, on Jamal Lascelles, he says it's a big blow for us and, of course, for Jamal. He's been excellent this season. Behind the scenes, he's been a key part of the leadership team. His standards on the training ground every day have been exceptional. It's a big blow for us to lose him. I feel for him because he's in a really good physical shape this year. He's looked really good. It was just one of those things. He's come together with Mikel Antonio. I think he's taken a bit of weight through the force of the tackle, and unfortunately, he's ended up with a serious injury. And again, how often do you see these challenges on a football field? And, 99 out of 100 times, both players just get back up and get on with it. But for some reason, once again, it's an awful injury to Jamal Lascelles and sees him out for 6 to 9 months. It's absolutely mental. It really is. You have to feel for Jamal Lascelles because, we know what kind of leader Jamal Lascelles is. Eddie said it many, many times before about what he's like behind the scenes in the dressing room, on the training field. And that gives me the impression that, he's very much an inspiration to the younger players as well, and a good guide for those younger players, being club captain, of course, as well. He has to be that approachable guy and help with all sorts of things behind the scenes, and he's done that. And then to get this injury is sickening. I really feel for him because he's worked his arse off, Jamal Lascelles. When you've seen him back on the pitch, there's no doubt that he's improved under Eddie Howe. I mean, that's there for all to see. The kind of player that he was before and after. And I'm really gutted for him because I think he could have been in that side for the rest of the season. But, one injury gives somebody else an opportunity. Would we have seen Lewis Hall had Jamal Lascelles not been injured? Lewis Hall now is going to be left back for the rest of the season. Dan Burns going to be in the middle. We probably wouldn't have seen that. So out of every injury, you have to look at a positive for another player to come in and step up to the plate. And it's given that opportunity. But it's sickening news for Jamal Lascelles. It really is. It's really sad. Tristan says, Paul, would you bypass Europe so we can take advantage of the new rules to make the squad better and abuse the new tax rule, as Europe would limit us to the 70% income rule? Well, that, to be honest, that is going to be questioned, and I think this is what a lot of the English clubs will be certainly fighting against. UEFA will not chuck them out of the Champions League. They can't afford to do that. Losing if the English teams bring all the best players to the Premier League, there is no way UEFA are going to ban them from the Champions League. It would be a sin to do that, and it would cripple the Champions League, because everybody wants to see the best players. The UEFA want the Champions League, as I said earlier, to be the pinnacle of everything. And without the English clubs there and the players that the English clubs will have at their disposal, UEFA will be making a big mistake. But I don't think they'll need to bypass Europe. Everything will sort itself out. I'm not worried about it, to be honest, because I know that UEFA will not risk having any damage to the Champions League, and it would be seriously damaged without the English teams there. We've seen when English teams haven't been involved in Europe, it's had a huge impact before, and the same will happen again. And there's no way UEFA are going to take that chance. No way. Travis says Eddie needs to use the young lads now during the last stages of games, especially with a threadbare squad, so it doesn't get any worse. Mike says, yes, Trips definitely needs to stay for his leadership on and off the pitch for me. Rufia Benisian, good morning, says last season we were lucky with injuries, but this season feels like we're playing catch up. Oh yeah, we're making up for a lot of injuries, aren't we? Hopefully Sandro can play the Spurs game in Melbourne. Well, it's a friendly, and at the minute he's allowed to play, so hopefully. Ever wonder if the incline of the pitch affects the players? It's a good point, that, and it's been raised many, many times before, that slight slope. I don't think personally it's enough. I think it's been there for years, hasn't it, the slope? And I don't really think that has any impact at all. It's a good point. And certainly where I sit in the ground, you see the advertising boards, and then you see the pitch, kind of the gap between the pitch and the advertising boards gets longer the more you head towards the Gallagher. But I don't really think it's steep enough to cause any problems, because I think when the players are out there on the pitch, I don't think they even notice any kind of incline at all. And I don't think, you never hear complaints from the players saying, second half or first half was difficult because you're playing up the hill. It's nothing like that. It's a slight slope, yes, but nothing. If you put the ball down on the pitch, it doesn't sort of roll down the slope. It's not enough to cause that. So I wouldn't have thought so. Baz Down Under said Eddie indicated he would rather not go to Australia, but he understands the reasons. Well, yeah, I mean, the reasons are all money, isn't it? There's no argument about that. Joe says part of his ban is he can't play any games, including friendlies, that isn't behind closed doors. Well, we'll see. Chris, good morning. Hope you're well. Aaron says, is it true Joe Linton got his... what? I don't think so. Joe Robinson says he can play friendlies between Newcastle players, but not against other teams. Interesting. Is Lewis Hall fit for tomorrow, says Northie? Yes, he is, according to the manager. Supposedly Joe Linton has signed a new contract, but won't be announced until May. Well, I've heard that rumour as well, Niall, and what I don't understand is why they just don't announce it. I find this very strange when players have agreed contracts to stay at a club, when we know that fans are very, very worried about it and are worried about contract situations with certain players. Why they would hold it back till May, I don't understand. If he's done the contract and he signed it, just announce it. Just put the fans at rest, because us as fans, we kind of deserve to know if a player signed a new contract or not, instead of sort of spacing it out. It's weird. Jan says, I'm very confident Mamardashvili will come in as the number one. We'll see. Who's put from last two matches what we're thinking the team will be? Well, I mean, there's your guess. I guess we'll find out at 2:00 tomorrow afternoon. UEFA will change the rules as the other leagues in Europe will copy the Premier League, and threat of Super League will come back if UEFA don't change. Exactly. They've got so many threats above them, UEFA, about how to, stave off this, the Super League and things like that. They will not want the Champions League to lose money. And at the end of the day, that's all UEFA are bothered about, is the fact that, they want that, like I said, to be the pinnacle of European competition. And they don't want the Super League to ruin that. And if they're going to start throwing teams out of the Champions League, the Super League will happen. And we know it'll happen because these teams that have been thrown out the Champions League need to earn revenue from somewhere, and the Super League will bring in far more than what the Champions League will. Whether we like the Super League or not, it will bring in much more for the teams involved in it if they are starting to throw teams out of the Champions League. They will not take the risk. I guarantee it. They won't take the risk of doing that. So I think, disappointing to see videos coming out, putting, making fans sweat, thinking, these new rules, it sounded great yesterday, and then all of a sudden we could be chucked out the Champions League, etc. It wouldn't happen. Tristan says, Paul, I only say PIF might change the managers. Results this season have been shocking. The decline from the Dortmund game is shocking, and that tax rule will attract a lot of top managers. Well, I mean, it will attract managers. If you're going to go to a manager and say, by the way, you have an unlimited pot of funds at Newcastle United, which clearly we have. I mean, that's not being pedantic or anything like that. That is just fact. The PIF have a lot of money, and they own Newcastle United. Therefore, we have a lot of money at our disposal. And if you were to go to a manager and say, there you go, this is what you can achieve at Newcastle United, this is what we're looking for, it's going to be very attractive to any manager, isn't it? Because they're going to want to come in and become a legend and win those first trophies at Newcastle United. Can you imagine that? But at the moment, Eddie Howe is our manager. And I'm still well behind Eddie Howe, by the way. I'm just talking hypothetically here, talking about a manager coming in who would be offered unlimited funds, and that's fine. But Eddie Howe is the manager. So, I'm not particularly talking about other managers. Remember Howe can't do the job without the players. Yes, he should be changing the squad during a game. I support Hibernian, and we have a slope called the Easter Road Slop, and does not affect anyone. A game more often, but the injuries are unheard of. Anthony says top line from Goldbridge, and a very limp-wristed, does not attend Pawn Tube by the look of it. Yeah, he comes out with some classics, doesn't he? Julie says, I think it's because the likes of Liverpool sniffing around wanting Joe Linton. It's to throw them off, I guess. Well, yeah, but at the same time, if they just announced he signed a new contract, then it would put them off anyway, because they're not going to come in for him. I find the whole thing bizarre about holding back about contracts. Just let us know. Think of it like this: us winning everything will change the history of football. So many clubs don't want that. Fuck them. Yeah, I'm of the same opinion, to be honest. Most teams have brought success, bar Leicester, really. Exactly. I said that last night now. If you look at everybody that's won the Premier League in the past, they've done it because they've had money to buy the best players. And Leicester was a complete one-off, let's be honest. It was a fascinating season, that, and it was great to see Leicester win it. Somebody different, a real underdog winning the Premier League. But if you look at all the other seasons after and before, that has been dictated by money and bringing in the best players, and that's what Newcastle United want to do. Now, on defender Dan Burns' brilliant performance on Tuesday. Eddie says, I liked a lot about his performance against Everton. I thought he was very, very good. Of course, aerially, it goes without saying he's a big presence in our backline anyway. But I thought aerially he did really well against two tough opponents against Everton. But on the floor, I think having played full-back for a long period of time, naturally, when you come inside, the spaces are a bit more condensed. So I think Dan really did excel in that area. Also, Dan's leadership is second to none. I think when he comes more central, he can help the team vocally as well. So presumably what Eddie's saying there is Dan Burns going to play centre-back tomorrow, but that is his mainstay position, which is very strange coming from Eddie, because thousands of times we said that Dan Burn struggles at left-back. But I think it was proved when he came to centre-back, he's so much more comfortable there. He looks like a leader. He plays like a leader at centre-back. And let's be honest, him and Cher, it just reminded me of the old days when Howe first took over. We got the takeover, and then January, Dan Burn came in, played with Cher for the rest of the season as centre-backs, and definitely were a massive part of our rise up the league table from a relegation spot to finishing mid-table. That was a lot down to the centre-backs. They really showed up the back line, and we looked so much more solid with Dan Burn and Cher. So like I said, I'm not particularly worried about those playing centre-back tomorrow. But interesting about his leadership, I think that's, he says that about quite a lot of players, actually. But Dan Burn has, for me, always been, he looks a leader. I hate saying this, but, he's a Geordie. He understands the club. And I think that's an important factor to remember as well. Julie says, Big Dan Burn did well in his own correct position. Shocker. Indeed. Mike says, yes, the owners don't want to be second or third. They want to be number one, and they will do whatever they have to do to get there, not here to play second fiddle. Exactly. Look, I think there's going to be some major decisions made in the summer. And I'm not saying that because I've heard anything. I'm just saying that as a fan. I think there will be some major changes in the summer. And some decisions that will probably shock us as fans. But it will all be for the benefit of next season and moving forward. Hopefully this new rule kicks in. The vote's in June. Transfer window opens in July. So if the vote's in June, then we can really go for it this summer and really change the squad around. I think this all depends on when this new rule is going to kick in. If it kicks in this summer, I think there'll be a lot of change at the football club. Massive change. But if it doesn't, and it's next summer, then I don't think we'll see a great amount of change. I think we'll see certain players leave, certain players come in, but not as much as if this actually goes through. So I hope it does, because I really do hope something happens. Alex says, how's the team channel sponsors getting on? How's the channel sponsors getting on? We don't have any channel sponsors at the minute. We get, I think we get offers on email every day. I read some emails from, but it's companies I've never heard of, and it's very. You've got to be careful with giving details to certain companies who you've never heard of before for obvious reasons. Slope is more than 1 meter from one end to the other. Rumours that Jeremy Frimpong will be available for £35 million in the summer. Liverpool and Man United are interested. Do you think we should go in and get him for right wing? Well, Frimpong's done very well, of course. He used to be at Arsenal. I don't know what happened at Arsenal, but he's gone to Germany, and he's having a fabulous time there and looks a real player. Have you seen the links to Ceballos from Real Madrid? Personally, I don't think he's the right player for us. I'm not sure on Ceballos myself. Niall says he flopped at Arsenal. I'm not so sure he was a flop at Arsenal. I just don't think Arsenal played him in the right positions. And I don't think Ceballos is somebody that is actually, it's hard to say, but I don't think Ceballos is someone that is going to fit into Eddie Howe's system, if that makes sense. I don't think it will be. Plus, he's not played a lot for Real Madrid, to be honest. I met the kids team that has the kids team. Yeah, they're doing very well, Alex. Really well. I'll get an update actually, and find out how they're getting on. I've obviously followed them closely on Facebook and things like that. So I will get an update to how they're getting on, because they were having a brilliant season and scoring lots of goals, which is a credit to them from where they've come from. The real great bunch of kids. And when you see them play, you see the desire that they've got. It's brilliant. It really is brilliant. Peter, good morning. With the news about June, we can keep Isak and Bruno without FFP restrictions. Well, not just that, Peter, but it opens up a whole world of possibilities for Newcastle United, doesn't it? A whole world. So, yeah, let's see what happens with that and keep fingers crossed. Now, Eddie went on to talk about Alex Isak, who has, of course, been nominated for Premier League's Player of the Month award, having already, of course, won the Sponsors Player of the Month award. He says, I think it gives us a massive lift if you've got any of your attacking players in the form he's in. I think it transforms through the team. Alex is in a really good place mentally and physically. It's great to see him in the type of form he is. He could have scored more on Tuesday. The team is giving him a good platform to showcase his talent, but he deserves a lot of credit for how he's played this year. I think he's an exceptional talent, and I hope he can get even better from this point. I think there's even more to come from him, but he's certainly looking confident. Now, I'm really pleased that Eddie said that last bit there, saying I think there's even more to come from him, because I've said this for a while now. I think he's got another gear. And that excites me in a way, because if he's playing and scoring goals like he is now, and he's still got another gear to go, I mean, how exciting is that, guys, to every Newcastle United fan out there? That our player who is in a striker, who's banging form at the minute, has got another level to go to. And the excitement is incredible, what this guy can actually achieve. You know, that he's not really in top gear yet, but doing what he's doing. And that's why I think tomorrow I'd like to see Gordon on the right and Barnes on the left, because they will create a lot of opportunities for Isak in that penalty area tomorrow. That's providing we get the ball to the front three, of course. But I do believe it's a massive opportunity tomorrow to get Isak some more goals, because the creativity that comes from Barnes and Gordon will be there. Barnes and Gordon can obviously score goals as well. I just think those three have to play up front tomorrow. It gives us much better chance of winning the game if he goes with Gordon and Barnes. That's no disrespect to Murphy. I think Murphy's been playing very well. Some tremendous crosses again on Tuesday night against Everton. But I think we just get a bit more if Gordon and Barnes are there. I live next to Blue Flames, and next season want to do as many under-21 games as possible. If you want a review, keep in touch with me, Scott, about that, please. Mike says, yes, we need a good few younger players that can play in the first team and prosper. Derek says, hi, Paul. Hope you're doing well. Keep up the good work. Regards from Cape Town, or Cape Verde, I think that might be. Toon win for us tomorrow. I hope you're right. Oh, here we go. Sorry, but how do you know what UEFA thinks? Oh, you don't. It's just your opinion. Yeah. And it's my opinion. Is that a problem for you? It clearly seems to be. It's my opinion that UEFA will not take a risk on the Champions League because of the underlying matter of the Super League. If they kick teams out of the Champions League, then the Super League will be formed. We know that. Come on, it's not really hard to think about, is it? They're not going to risk the Champions League. But again, they might risk it, but it's just my opinion that they won't risk it, and it's not just my opinion. I've seen a lot of opinions on that. But Darren, I think you've been a little bit facetious there, my friend. It's an opinion. Of course, it's an opinion, but it's an opinion with a bit of backup. I don't know what UEFA thinks, and I never will know what UEFA thinks. I'm not in a position to know that. But as a football fan, are they going to take a risk? No. Geordie Rick says, Paul, seen something on the news the other day. Boxing training helps with Parkinson's. Did you see this? Yeah, boxing training is really good, and I am planning on actually. We've got a little gym set up in the outhouse or shed or whatever you want to call it. There's a little gym set up we've got there, so I'm hoping to get a punch bag in there shortly. So Susan can use all those posh treadmills and stuff, and I'll just punch the shit out of a bag. Chris says there is no right or wrong in an opinion. You melt. Exactly, Chris. Exactly. Derek's actually in Cape Town, not Cape Verde. So thank you, Derek, for confirming that. Doom the Narc says you can't have an opinion unless it's posh media approved, and they never lie. Exactly. I don't think. Darren's back here saying that Michael, Isak over Haaland, Nunez over Ollie Watkins, to name three players 1,000 times better than Isak. Ollie Watkins, 1,000 times better than Isak. Darren, seriously, man, I don't know whether you've woke up on the wrong side of the bed or you've had a bit of a disappointing time, with something. But Ollie Watkins, 1,000 times better. Nunez, really? Oh, why? Guys, let me know. Let me know what you think in the chat to what Darren's saying there. But I find that quite astounding. Jesus Christ. You're talking about me having a go at me for my opinion on UEFA, and then you come out with a quote like that. Wow. Impressive, Darren, on this Friday, early Friday afternoon. 100%. Wow. Right. Now, Eddie was asked on whether 7 points from the 3 games this week would represent a reasonable run. He said, I think 4 points from 2 games is a decent return. We wanted 6, we got 4. Now Fulham's a very difficult game in isolation. They're very good at Craven Cottage. Their record this year is very strong. I think that point looks different if you're able to win your next game. So that's what we're aiming to do. I think that goes without saying, doesn't it? You look at that and you think, right, okay, the Everton draw won't look so bad if we win at Fulham, because that'll be 7 points from 9 possible. I think that's a very good return in any day of the week. So, we start to look more positive again if we win the game at Fulham tomorrow. I think it's perfect. 7 points out of 9. Darren says he just knows ball. No, you don't. You talk balls, Darren, but you don't know football. You talk balls. I'll give you that. So yeah, I think 7 out of 9 is really good. If we look at the games this week, the disappointment of not getting the extra 2 against Everton will disappear. So yeah, I'm pretty certain that a lot of fans would have taken 7 points out of 9 at the start of the week. They probably would have looked at winning the 2 home games and then maybe a point at Fulham, but it may have to be, it will be the other way around. So hopefully we go out and we dispatch of Fulham quite nicely tomorrow. Now, we did speak about Bruno as well. There's nothing on the actual official website about his question about Bruno. And he said that he doesn't want Bruno to go anywhere, which I think is an obvious statement to make. But Bruno himself is very happy at the football club. And I think the fact of the matter is, if these new rules turn into reality in June, I don't think Bruno goes anywhere, because I think Newcastle United can then promise Bruno the world. And I genuinely mean that, because of the money that's available. We could turn to Bruno and say, look, this new rule has come in now. We are going to bring in the very best players to play with you and build this squad into something very, very, very special. And I think that's what they will be aiming for with Bruno, 100%. They will not take any risks on losing Bruno. I think it's a massive thing to keep him at the football club. And given that the money that will be there and available to bring in players, look at this. Well, I think we should ban him, don't you? Telling everyone to F off. What a lovely man Darren is. I think he's had a very, very hard night. But I think he's already been banned, actually. I think the mods have actually taken him off. Well done. Yeah. Goodbye, Darren. Nice to see you. I think Brian's right. You need to ring your carer up and get back into your safety of your bed, mate. You've had a bad day. But anyway, there you go. That is the press conference reaction for you. Very interesting comments from Eddie this morning. I think there was a lot more depth in that press conference, I think, this morning than there has been in various other weeks where it's been the same old. But this time, we've actually, seen some decent questions asked. Obviously, not all the questions we want. But at the same time, I think he's answered quite a few on the injury front. Now, whether he's just sort of, again, not being 100% honest about Livramento and Miggy, the way it was yesterday was they're both out for a month. The way it is today, it's now changed to a few days. So I don't know whether he's just doing that to throw everybody off the scent, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. He's very good at that in his press conferences. But there you go. Thank you very much for watching, guys. Thank you for super chats, etc. And of course, don't forget tonight, 7 o'clock live, TTR Friday. It's going to be a great show. We've got some, again, stroke fan forum. Get on, have your say on Newcastle United. Have a bit of fun with the quiz questions. Billy's got his quiz for us as well. We've got Sam's wine. We've got Alex, of course, with his shamed by, and of course, Billy's beef. We've got some brilliant intros for them as well. Absolutely fantastic intros. So please do tune in for that. June, just before we go, is part of the kids team. Great chat, Paul. Love listening to your opinions. Kids have got 3 games to go. June, can you send me a message on Facebook, please, and let me know when they are, because I'm going to try and get to one before the end of the season. I'd really like to see the kids play before the season's wrapped up. So if you can drop me a message on Facebook, please, June, and I'm going to do my best to get to a game before the end of the season. Obviously, with my health and everything, it hasn't been great, so I haven't been able to get up there anywhere near as much as I wanted to be honest. But thank you so much. If you can drop me a message. Cheers, June. So yeah, join us tonight, TTR Friday, and then of course we've got the Match Day live show tomorrow from 2:30 with myself and of course my sidekick for commentary, Billy Bob. But it'll be a great show tonight. Perfect way to start your weekend with a good laugh. Certainly for me, the week I've had, I need a good laugh and a good crack, and we'll definitely get that tonight. So join us at 7 o'clock for that. In the meantime, have a wonderful Friday, guys, and we'll see you back here at 7. Take care.